Hi, my name's John, and for those of you who aren't familiar, I have my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling, and so today I wanted to use the Myers Briggs Type Indicator as kind of an outline to look at the personality of Ann Takamaki from Persona 5 Royal, because she is a hugely underrated character in my opinion, and I think she deserves a little bit more credit. So if you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it coming from this channel, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and why not even ring that notification bell so you never miss another upload. But with all of that out of the way, let's just jump into the video. But before we get started, if you're not familiar with the Myers Briggs Type Indicator, it's a tool that can be used in loads of different ways within a counseling setting for non-diagnostic purposes. In essence, the Myers Briggs helps to find the generalities of people's personalities, and it's not meant to be a holistic description that defines every single little piece of one's personality and who they are as a person. But it does provide a great outline. For instance, when it's used within the realm of counseling, the Myers Briggs Personality Types could be utilized as a good starting point to give someone an added opportunity to better begin to understand themselves if they have trouble with this sort of introspection. So, this test is based on the 4 basic aspects of a person's personality, which are where people get their energy from, how they interpret information, how they make decisions, and how they personally like to structure the outside world. And once you take the official Myers Briggs assessment, we can see that person's personality type based on their results. But since we can't actually give on the actual test itself, and my subjective observations obviously won't have the same reliability as the test, let's just have some fun to try and riddle out what her personality type would likely be. So because we're not actually using the Myers Briggs assessment itself, please take whatever I say in this video with a big grain of salt. So with that taken care of, where better to start than with the first dichotomy, introversion versus extroversion. Now, I would have to say that this dynamic is pretty easy to pin down for Ann, but I want to make it very clear that when we're looking at these dualities in personality type that the Myers Briggs has laid out for us, very rarely does anyone lie perfectly at either polarity. They more so operate on a continuum that we all lie somewhere in between, and we just tend to lean more towards one way or the other. Really, what we're looking for is to understand a person's tendencies, but these tendencies shouldn't be treated as law. And so in the case of Ann, she tends to lean much more into the extroverted side of the continuum, because being around people just tends to be what energizes her as opposed to being alone. Obviously, as a member of the Phantom Thieves, we see her thrive when she's in conversation with her friends, and she loves being around people like Ren, Ryuji, and her friend Shiho. But in reality, enjoying being around your friends doesn't really tell us that much about whether you're introverted or extroverted. A lot of people tend to enjoy being around their friends. It's whether being around these people is what gives you energy, or whether being alone is what gives you that energy and recharges your batteries. And so I think these more extroverted tendencies can be seen much more definitively in the activities that Ann chooses to do outside of her role in the Phantom Thieves. For instance, I think something as seemingly innocuous as where we can find her after school if we talk to her for a social link is a good indicator. We can often find her shopping and hanging out in the underground mall, with shopping being an activity that we see time and time again that she enjoys doing, whether again it's with Ren, Shiho, or just by herself. This really brings out a lot of her joy and energy. And in Tokyo, this goes hand in hand with being around a lot of people. And yeah, she mentioned in the game that being around these large crowds was a bit of an adjustment for her when she reached Tokyo, but now she thrives in them. I also think that it's worth noting that often she's the one who spearheads a lot of the Phantom Thieves celebrations. And because of this, I've always kind of seen her as kind of like the social coordinator of the group, which, let's be honest, is a role that every friend group needs. But according to the Myers Briggs Foundation's website, we have a bit more to go off of when determining introversion versus extroversion than simply how someone like Ann engages with the people people around her. Ann is known to, at times, jump into a situation without taking the time to think about the consequences of her actions. Now, don't get me wrong, she always has the best of intentions, and more often than not, she does this to help the people around her, and oftentimes she has pretty good instincts in whatever circumstances she finds her in. But this impulsive nature can still put her and her friends into sticky situations sometimes. I think that a good example of this impulsiveness is in Persona 5 Strikers during the Alice arc, when Alice is abusing her manager in the TV station hallway. I think that Ann and Joker running to stop her with minimal conversation about it, perfectly understandable as a response, but it also illustrates what the Myers Briggs website describes as jumping too quickly into an activity and not allowing enough time to think it over before you are actively in the thick of it. The fact of the matter was that Ann saw someone in trouble, and without a second thought, she was in action, ready to help. It was as simple as that, and I think that's very representative of her character. And it leads us into the next dichotomy, intuition versus sensing. Now, determining where Ann would likely lean here was pretty tough, but as I started thinking more and more about how she interprets the information regarding the world around her, she definitely feels like she dips into both types to some extent, but when it comes down to it, she definitely relies a bit more heavily on her 5 senses and her personal and subjective experiences. This makes sense as this ties well into her much more action-oriented nature when thinking about these more extroverted tendencies we were just talking about. For Ann, her experiences speak much more loudly to her than just words do, with an example of this being illustrated so incredibly well by her experiences with her modeling rival Mika in her 5th social link. So in this social link, this is when we're actually introduced to the character of Mika, and we can immediately see within the beginning of this relationship how Ann is able to take in and process information about the world around her. After this disastrous meeting with Mika, in which Ann essentially tells her that she doesn't work too hard to be a model, just kind of goes with the flow, this causes Mika to throw Ann straight under the bus to the people doing the shoot. As Ann continues to interact with Mika through subsequent social links, she starts learning that perhaps just treating modeling as a hobby isn't cutting it anymore. While she dislikes Mika immensely, she learns so much from her at all of these different shoots, and in turn applies these lessons to her own life as she begins taking this modeling more and more seriously. Ann takes the individual facts of her situation, and while she may not like her, what she learns from Mika to better understand what she needs to do to become a model and find that bigger picture. She even uses these experiences paired with the motivation from her watching how hard Shiho works to determine that she does in fact want to pursue modeling to a much more professional extent. Now, in terms of feeling versus thinking, I think that we can all say this one together. Ann lives and dies by the perspectives of both herself and the people around her, and this is what leads her to make decisions. I think that we need to look no further than her relationship with Shiho to prove this point. Ann is super focused on what she believes to be the best for Shiho, and in her opinion, what would be the best for her is to save Shiho's spot on the volleyball team. And so she puts herself in some situations with a vile disgrace for a human, whose name I won't say, that she really shouldn't be in, just so that she can do whatever she can to keep her friend safe and happy. Even though her efforts are a bit misguided, she constantly is looking for what is important to the people around her and is in a way the moral center of the Phantom Thieves, ensuring that harmony is maintained within the group, as it was her idea to make going after targets dependent on a unanimous vote from all of the members of the Phantom Thieves. Ann is able to see the value in other people's opinions and viewpoints, oftentimes even if their views maybe contradict with hers directly. When she is talking to Alice Hiragi at the end of her jail in Persona 5 Strikers, I think that this point is illustrated so amazingly well when she says this.
You became the bully. right?
You idiot! What good does that do? Now you're just as bad as the people who made you suffer. Is that how you want to live? Like one of those bullies? Didn't you want to be something else? A ray of light for others. And for yourself.
This interaction really highlights just how sympathetic Ann can really be. Alice has done some really terrible things, but Ann was able to see past this and empathize with her. She was able to see the hurting person underneath somewhat cold and malicious persona. And this isn't to say someone who leans more into the thinking type as opposed to the feeling type wouldn't reach this same conclusion. I'm not saying that at all. But the nature in which this conclusion was reached would likely be a bit different. And while I think that these are the most visceral and clear-cut examples of Ann showing us her natural feeling type in the game, is by no means the only examples, as we can also see it when she forgives Makoto, accepting and sympathizing with her perspective and why she did the things that she did after their kerfuffle prior to Makoto joining the team. And finally, when structuring her outside world, I think it's pretty clear-cut that she is the type to be flexible and go with the flow. Whatever situation she finds herself in, she is able to quickly adapt to it, staying open to the possibility for new experiences, not being overly invested or rigid in plans or schedules. I'd say that the most fun example of this comes when the crew is on vacation in Hawaii and this happens.
That reminds me, what time is it?
So sleepy. I'm feeling pretty pooped. You think this could be that jet lag thing?
It'll be too much hassle for me to go anywhere else. I'll just sleep in here tonight.
Wait, what? I don't know if that's a good idea.
Don't worry, I trust you guys.
I saw that one coming.
Now the game plays this for comedy, but this illustrates pretty well how she's able to just go with the flow. Even when her circumstances change, she's able to respond accordingly. In this instance, finding a place to sleep when she wasn't able to access her own room with very little fuss. And in addition to this, she's also pretty flexible with her modeling gigs. We see in her social links that when she's called up for a job, she'll tend to just drop whatever she's doing and go to a shoot without taking too much time to make that decision. She's constantly keeping herself open to new experiences and information, and oftentimes is pretty receptive when integrating this new information into her own experience. This adaptiveness probably comes, at least in part, from the fact that she's been all over the world because of her parents, even starting her modeling career in Finland, and had to adapt to all of these different environments. And while it's not always easy, like we've already talked about with how difficult it was for her to adjust to the crowds in Tokyo, she's still able to do so pretty well, even adjusting to the idea of the metaverse staggeringly quickly. And so, with all of this in mind, I believe that Ann Takamaki is definitely an ESFP. So, according to the official Myers Briggs Type Indicator, the characteristics frequently associated with ESFPs are that they're outgoing, friendly, and accepting. They're exuberant lovers of life, people, and material comforts, and they enjoy working with others to make things happen. They bring common sense and a realistic approach to their work and make work fun. They're flexible and spontaneous, adapt readily to new people and environments, and they learn best by trying a new skill with other people. And I would say that this pretty accurately encapsulates Ann as a character. While she was pretty much isolated by everyone at Shujin Academy, besides Shiho and the absolute scumbag of a gym teacher, this led her to be much more withdrawn and solemn until she joins the Phantom Thieves. And this is where we see just how outgoing she really is now that she has that outlet to show her true colors. She loves to be around the people she cares about and finds there to be a certain level of stress relief that comes when she shops. While she may not be the best in the classroom, she thrives when it comes to actually applying the things that she learns in a real world context. Whether this is in regard to how well she was able to learn English, or all of her skills in the Phantom Thieves, or even as a model, she shows time and time again that she is amazingly intelligent and capable, as long as she's able to immediately apply the new things that she's learned. When it comes down to it, Ann is such a fantastic character that I don't think gets the respect that she deserves all the time from many of the fans, and more importantly from the writers and the developers. I think that far too often she's played as the ditzy character, and so while she's an amazing member of the Phantom Thieves, I think that some of the writings in the game hold her back from reaching her true potential as the incredibly strong individual that she is. But that'll do it for today's video, guys, and I want to pass the question off to you. Do you think that I got Ann's type completely right, or do you think I was wrong here or there? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, why not liking this video, why not subscribing to the channel, and why not even ringing that notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out our Teespring page because it's by far the best way to support the channel. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, a fantastic rest of your week, and why not even a fantastic rest of your month. And I will see you in the next video. Later.